We're ready to go now. Everybody's here. Let's begin tonight with just a moment of silence. All right, our first agenda item is the presentation of colors and Pledge of Allegiance. It will be presented by Liberty Tech Air Force ROTC under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Thomas C. Snodgrass for this month, for the month of January.
Billy and Hunt. Carry colors. Forward march. Color guard. Hold. Right. Face. Present colors.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight, go ahead.
Order colors. Right face. Forward march.
The cadets presenting colors tonight for those, First Lieutenant Smith, Staff Sergeant Dyer, and Master Sergeant Woods. And I'm so thankful to have them to come and do that for us. So the next thing on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Second by Wayne. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. So now the next thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion
Chairman, I'll make a move.
to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the agenda in a second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Chairman, I'll make an amendment to the motion that we move that we'll amend the motion to include the reconsideration of the 2019-2018 school calendar.
I have a second to the amendment.
Second.
All in favor? We ready to vote? Any more discussion?
What are we voting on?
We're voting on,
So he amended Shannon's motion?
yes, he amended to approve the consent agenda and add to it, or to approve the agenda and add to it the reconsideration of the 2019-2020 calendar.
Consider what now?
To reconsider the 2019-2020 calendar. Are we ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
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 Three, Mr. Campbell, AJ, and Shannon were there. Now to, and that will fall under. yeah, 12. All right, so we will have added to the agenda 12.1, which will be the reconsideration of the 2019-2020 calendar. That being said, the next thing on our agenda tonight is public comments. I ask you please to, I don't know how many I've heard there's going to be quite a few comments. If you would please hold your comments to 3 minutes. I'll have a timer here. Please state your name before you make your comments, please. Anybody have?
Good evening. I am Janice Carroll. This is my 18th school year in Jackson-Madison County Schools. I'm currently at Denmark Elementary, and I have previously before that, I was at Molesis and Lincoln Elementary. I want to discuss the calendar issue. I realize that a lot of people, our calendar causes confusion because they don't understand how it's put together. So I've got little Post-it notes to help me and to help you. We are paid for 200 days. That's state law. Tennessee Code Annotated 4963004 says we are paid for 200 days. And that's mostly, teachers especially. Of those 200 days, state law says there should be 180 student days. We typically have 178 student days. And I'll explain to you in just a moment why we have 178 student days. We also have 10 vacation days. Again, this is part of state law. Those vacation days are usually put on the calendar at Christmas time. So I'm paid for 10 vacation days at Christmas time. Also, we have, state law says we should have 5 in-service days. We have 7. Okay? 3 in July and August at the very beginning of the school year. 1 when we come back in January, which we just had Monday. 1 in May at the very end of the school year. And then we have 1 after each parent-teacher conference, which is in the fall and which is in the spring. Okay? So, we also have 1 day in state law for parent-teacher conference. And that's split up between spring and fall. We have parent-teacher conference in the spring and the fall. Now, that adds up to 196 days. That leaves 4 days in the calendar. Those 4 days are considered discretionary days. Those 4 days have been used since in the 1990s to pay teachers for working 30 extra minutes a day because we extended the day by 30 minutes when we went to block scheduling. So at the time, the school board said, we can't pay you. That's almost 14 extra days when you extend the school day by 30 minutes. We don't have the money to pay you. So we will make these 4 discretionary days paid leave days. And they sit on the calendar on paid holidays, on holidays. So I'm getting paid for those days. There are compensation for that extra 30 minutes a day. But for planning purposes, when central office sends in the calendar to the state, that's where they put them on the calendar. So I'm not working those days. If you take away 2 of those discretionary days and only leave 2, remember that was money that you were paying me to work 30 extra minutes a day. So now I only have 2. And you're going to take those 2 extra days and make them work days. So now instead of having 7 in-service days, I now have 9 in-service days. So you have reduced how much, you haven't reduced how much I'm paid, it's the same. But you have created 2 more work days for me. So, again, the only solution for this that teachers see is either keep the 4 days that we're paid for because we work 30 minutes extra a day due to block scheduling, or pay us for 2 more days because we are actually working 2 more days. So, and let me say, this is not the first time we've had this discussion. I was vice president of JMCEA in 2014, 5 years ago. So I again came in and addressed the school board and asked them, at that time there were 2 calendars. One of them changed all 4 days to work days, and one changed it, kept it the way it was. So I came in and I asked the school board to reconsider keeping those 4 days and explain why to keep those 4 days. So, and we ask you again to please keep those 4 days because they're not gimme days. They're days we have been paid for because we work 30 minutes more a day. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Anyone else for public comments? Okay. Next on the agenda is appearance before the board. I don't believe there's anyone here that is appearing before the board. It's JMCEA announcement report. Mrs. Arlene Price.
Good evening. My name is Arlene Price. I'm the president of JMCA, and I am here this evening to speak to you about the calendars that were presented to you at the last board meeting. I was at the meeting, and as you know, I was at the meeting, but since that time, I've gotten several reports from teachers about the calendar. It said Dr. Jones explained that 2 discretionary days, which have been paid leave days in the past, will be changed to work days. While I attended the calendar meeting, just as I just said, committee meeting, heard the explanation for the change. At the time, I didn't realize the impact it would have on our teachers. And wow, did I not realize the impact. Since that time, I have been bombarded with contacts. I'm not knocking that, I'm just telling you, from teachers, and I have learned how they became paid leave days and more about the significance of those days. I am here to request that the days be converted back to paid leave days because of morale. These days were initially given to teachers, as Janice just told us, when the system needed a longer school day to make block scheduling work. The board, in its wisdom, offered teachers these discretionary days as paid leave because they didn't have the money to pay for extra hours of work. It was a way to honor teachers for hard work and commitment without costing the system any more money. We are still working these additional hours. To take them away is to blow morale. Our members have let me know that having us to come to work on 2 additional assigned days is disheartening. Therefore, I am asking you to please reconsider this decision. It is an easy way to show teachers respect and honor for the hours we put in to get the work done. And the best thing is that it's free. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Price. Next on the agenda is the financial report, budget amendment, school expenditures, utilities, analysis, and sales tax reports. Mr. Mike Nichols, Mrs. Holly Keller.
Good evening. There are 3 budget amendments this month. Item number 1, $5,352, insurance recovery. These funds were received for vehicle repairs and parts. Item number 2, $63,870. It's also insurance recovery. These funds were received for storms last July, damages to 11 schools. Third item, $216,117. This is the Title I-A grant. It aligns the general ledger to revision 2 and E-plan. Are there any questions on that? The general purpose December financial statement is posted in e-meetings. As of the end of December, $45.4 million had been expensed with an additional $2 million in outstanding encumbrances. This is 45.3% of the total budget, as opposed to 45.1% being spent at the same time last year. December revenues in the amount of $10.5 million were posted after the financial statement was prepared, but this brings the total revenues for the year to $50,100,000, which is 49.1% of the budgeted revenue. In addition to the 2 regular payrolls for December, employee bonuses totaling $925,000 were processed. This included the bonuses that went to teachers and support staff, as well as the differentiated pay plan bonuses that went to eligible teachers. The quarterly expenditure reports are also posted for your review. I wanted to point out that on the report, you will see a column toward the right side of the page labeled Total All Categories. This is the total expenditures by location incurred from all funds in all categories. To the right of this column, I've pulled out the total utilities and the total education capital as a separate point of interest. The quarterly utility report is also posted, and you'll see that through the end of December, the total utility expense was $1,467,000. This is only a slight increase of $9,700 over December of 2017. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
Holly, if I can, you said, I think I heard you say, in our year-to-date numbers for FY19, we've got bonuses that were paid in December. How much?
A total of $925,000.
$25,000. Would there have been a similar number paid in FY18 in the first half of the year?
I think they were paid in, was it January? It was later on last year.
It was later?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because as I was doing my math, it looked like we were running about $1 million ahead in terms of expenses this year of where we were last year.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be that $925,000.
Right.
Okay. But you think we may have paid something similar to that just later on?
We paid a $400,000, including benefits, differentiated pay it was either January or February. We had some issues with the state in determining who was eligible for that.
Okay.
So it delayed the payment.
That explains that number. Okay.
I have one question. On the utilities, under the non-school locations, would that be considered like the garage?
Yes, you've got you've got transportation, you've got central office, you have some charges that are coded to system-wide. I think that should be it. Right. Okay.
Other questions for Holly? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Holly, she explained it very well, so you don't need me. But with her in the last year when you had that $1.7 million payment for capital in the general purpose budget last year, that skewed my numbers some. So Holly's numbers are a lot better. That's one reason why I didn't give you my summary financial statement this month. And because of that $1.7 million, your budget in fiscal year 19 was about the same, but it did not include that $1.7 million payment to capital. So budget was a little bit, budget was about the same, but it was not any transfer to capital. It was in other things. Also, I was talking about sales taxes. I think you all received my last sales tax report. Don't have anything in for this month. And I told you last year that I thought that the city's receiving was a little bit less than they should have been. And I got with the city, and we finally got with the state, and there was one large taxpayer that was getting coded to basically outside the city limits. So what basically that's gonna do is, instead of putting it all in general purpose where you all would have 100% control of it, that excess would be going to the educational foundation. Right now, as I'm saying, it's $100,000, but the last 6 months of last year, we had a tremendous decrease, so it might be a lot more than that. I just don't know at this point in time. But I think the state has gotten all those taxpayers straightened out, and we're beginning our sales tax audit for all of Madison County as of right. We've begun that right now. So that's all I have, unless we've got any questions.
Questions for Mike? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is action items, policy committee approval for policy revisions. Mrs. Hampton?
Okay. Policy Committee met on January the 9th. All members were present. In this particular meeting, there were 10 policies that were up for revisions. Since some of the policies required some major changes, I had asked some of the administrators here to speak to those particular policies. I, for one, will speak on one policy regarding role of the Board of Education as well. So at this time, I'm asking for Dr. Vivian Williams to speak to policy 4.301, interscholastic athletics homeschool.
Okay, so on the interscholastic athletic policy, homeschool policy, the committee met and decided that policy needed to be aligned with TSBA, so it was changed to match TSBA. That was the only difference. The wording of homeschool was taken out, and the information concerning homeschool students would be put in procedures. And so, because homeschool students who are accepted and play sports would follow the same guidelines as all students. So just the information about them being able to participate would be a part of procedure. So this is in line with the TSBA policy.
The next policy is policy 3.212, district water testing. This is a new policy, and I have Mr. Ray Washington to speak to this particular policy.
What it is that this summer the state mandated we test water and water fountain in sink where people would touch water. Everything except for toilets. The water has to be tested at every school. Initially, we just thought it had to be tested at the entry point of the school, but we found out it had to be tested at every point for lead, at every point in the school that water would come out of. So we initiated this program this summer. We're moving along with it. We haven't found anything erratic in our testing so far. And this requirement is that you test every one of those outlets every 2 years. So we're well into it now. There's some agencies that out there will do it for us, but right now we're handling it in-house, and we'll just work with it in that manner for right now.
The next policy is 3.600, insurance management, and Dr. Tiffany Green would speak to this policy.
The TSBA sent recommendations into us to update this policy to add just a couple of things to make sure that we were in compliance with HIPAA language, and so we put a statement in to make sure that we were in compliance with HIPAA language. We also added in this policy, since we are now, TSBA updated their policy to include work-based learning as it relates to liability, and so those students who are doing work-based learning, so they recommended that we add that to our policy as well. And since we have students who are in work-based learning, then we added that or recommended to add that to the policy. And then finally, for this policy, they recommended to us that since we include retirees and we pay a portion of the retiree health insurance under the group health portion of our policy, they recommended that we put a statement in there that now goes along with recent law change that states that that lets employees know that the state will no longer contribute to insurance of employees who start after July the 1st of 2015. So they wanted to make sure that we put a statement in there so that that can be made aware of, and that was a recent law change. So those are the recommendations that we put based upon their recommendations from TSBA.
Yes, and one addition that we made the previous meeting, I want to make sure we say out loud, is that the insurance for retirees that the district pays, we put language in there that you had to work at least 5 consecutive years for the district, because the way the policy was before, you could feasibly be working in Crockett County for 29 years and come work for us for a year and we pay your insurance. So it's 5 consecutive years in the district before you're eligible for district paid retirement.
We had approved that earlier.
Yes,
We approved that earlier, but I want to make sure I said that out loud again.
Okay. Policy 5.302, I'm gonna let Dr. Tiffany Green speak to the sick leave changes with this policy.
For sick leave, they recommended to us that we remove a statement because of a law change that our current policy says that teachers could only apply for, while the period of use sick leave during their physical disability as it relates to maternity leave, but the law has changed, and so that's no longer a requirement. So basically what it was saying is that you couldn't use your sick leave for maternity leave until you actually had the baby, but that's no longer the case, and so we needed to take that language out in order to be in compliance with the law.
Thank you. Policy 4.600, grading system. We're gonna ask Dr. Marico to speak to this policy.
Sure, so, we have a lot of students that take college classes and dual enrollment classes, and colleges and the school system don't have the same grading scale. And the state doesn't really give guidance on how to make those match up. And so what we've had happening is, students will take a class at Jackson State or somewhere, and the college will send a grade of an A or a B, and the counselor doesn't know what to put in to Power School for that grade. So that's one issue we confronted. Another issue that's come up is when a student will earn, let's say a student earns a 73 at a college, and they consider that a C, but in Jackson-Madison County, a 73 is a D. And so we don't want to penalize students for taking college classes because the grading scales don't match up. And so what the addition to the policy does is says when a student earns a letter grade at a university, that letter grade will be consistent in the district, and it gives a grade average that they'll actually be assigned for that. And so the other addition to that is they have the option. So it gets a little bit more confusing because if you make a 99 in the class and you get 100 based on this, you're actually not getting the maximum benefit because there is something in state board policy that says that you should get 4 quality points added to your grade, at least 4 quality points added to your grade if you take a dual enrollment course. So a student that makes a 99 at the college should actually make 103 when it comes over to the district. So there's a provision in the policy for the counselor to look at the grade, make the decision that's in the best interest of the student, and then to apply that to their high school transcript.
That's a question before we move on. Just to make sure I'm clear, because I had several parents that called me. We're saying now that if a child makes 73 at Jackson State Community College, when they return to our system, they would have 73 in Madison County. Am I not, that's not right?
So 72, whatever the letter grade is at the college, because that's what matters, is the letter grade, the
Right.
credit to that letter grade. If that's a C at the college, then they'll receive a C on their transcripts in Jackson as well, along with the grade average that corresponds with what a C is. Yeah, which would actually be an 84.
Can we get awarded?
Let me do the Pacific one and I'll move on. This particular student had a 60 at Jackson State, which was passing. Came back to Madison County, F.
Right.
So what changes now?
So in that situation, this is why we had to have two things. So the 4 points wouldn't help that student.
Right.
Because the 64 is still an F in Jackson. That's why we added the first part of the policy. If the 60 is a D at Jackson State, it needs to be a D when it comes to us as well, because that's what the professor intended for the student to have. And so the student, according to that policy, would receive the average that corresponds with the D in Jackson-Madison County as well.
And Jared, that is from now forward, not retroactive to past grades.
Right. In the situation you're talking about, I've been in contact with that parent. We resolved that situation today.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Ms. Hampton, I had a question about the lead policy. Andrew's working on my iPad, I don't know the
Okay.
number, but, and I don't recall if we talked about this in the policy committee meeting, but Ray, is there a cost that's associated with that? I know you said that we were doing it
Yes,
in-house, but,
yeah, each one there is a cost, and the tests have to be sent out. I don't have that with me, but yeah, each test that is sent out, there is a cost to it. So it's a new cost to the district that we didn't have before. And I'll email you with that exact cost.
okay,
Every spot that we test, we have to send off for validation, and then there's a cost associated.
sure, I was wondering what the budget implications were of that.
There'd have to be a new budget for maintenance for that next year. We just haven't sucked it up this year
Sure.
because we didn't know about it.
Sure.
After the budget.
Too bad the state won't pass us some money for that.
There's
Okay,
a lot of requirements for
yeah,
new money
they
all-
sure do, yeah.
all the time.
Ray, are we gonna have, you said there's some vendors that have contacted
Yeah,
you.
we have outside vendors who are soliciting us to provide that service for us. We just have to evaluate.
Okay.
what's the best for us going forward. It's just planning.
Okay. If it saves us money, we wanna see it, yeah.
But just our first run at it and
Yeah.
just planning.
Is this something we'll have to do every year?
Every 2 years.
Report has to be tested every 2 years.
Okay, okay, thank you,
So the water fountain outside get tested this year, get tested again in 2021.
okay.
Right. If we, I'm not sure, since you already started the process, did you, check with JEA about doing it?
So the first person,
Okay.
first entity we checked with JEA. They can help us very much.
Okay.
Because they only responsible for it until it gets to the school building. We're responsible then for the pipes inside the school and all that could cause the lead problem. That's our responsibility.
Mr. Allen Powell is in the back. I think he wanted to make some comment regarding.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to what
Okay.
Ray's saying. The first thing we had to do was map out all the locations in the schools, and we have, currently Waypoint Analytical Lab does our wastewater treatment plant, and so we have kind of partnered with them and got a cost from them. And so currently the cost is $8 per sample point. And we are currently, it's still a little bit in flux on exactly how many points we have to. For instance, if it's in a restroom, do we have to sample every sink point in there? So we go in February to a conference, it's a statewide conference, so that we can see what our sister districts are doing and kind of what's been settled on in the state of how we sample each point. But currently, if we sample every point that we've mapped, that's over 1,600 points.
Okay,
that
that's
we
a
have
lot
to
of-
sample
that's a
at
lot of-
$8 per sample. is what
Sure.
it is.
Okay.
So that's the budget implication currently is $8 per sample at 1,600 plus. But that is for schools built previous to January 1, 1998. It is not, the new legislature doesn't cover schools built after 1998, January 1, but only previous to 1998, January 1.
Thank you. Policy 1.101, role of the Board of Education. Basically, this policy consisted of the date change, deletion of interpretation and wording, adding from the TSBA policy. And on number 4, it changed the word interpretation to promotion. As it relates to this policy, the committee had agreed that regarding this particular policy, that each board member be on the same page as it relates to what our roles are. And basically, this particular policy outlines 4 different ones: policy oversight, educational planning, provision of financial resources, and promotion. And so during the meeting, we had discussed for each and every board member to take a view or just read over this particular policy and write down some things that you would like to have implemented or things that could be held of discussion in order to help this particular policy to be outlined more properly. There are some issues and some concerns as it relates to the role of the Board of Education, and so we just want to be on the same page. And so at some point, if you could possibly just write any concerns or issues or things that you feel like you would like to amend, just give it to Janet, and she'll give me a copy, and we'll discuss it at the next policy meeting. And Mr. Chairman, this concludes our discussions for the policy committee. No actions have been taken, other than was stated.
All right, so next on the agenda is item 7.2, which is the certification of tenured teacher dismissal charge, which Mr. Thomas was not able, due to all the evidence that he had to go through, he was not able to have that ready for us prior to this meeting. So this will be something we will require a special call meeting in the last week of January to deal with 7.2. That being said, next thing.
Chairman, do we need to approve these policy revisions as a whole board?
Yes, we will.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the policy revisions as laid out. Is that okay?
It didn't need an approval, but I forgot to say that we need to present these policies for first reading. I do.
Okay,
go back
that's
to
what I was
recount
asking if
that.
there was.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
So you do want, we do want to,
Take action
Okay.
for the first reading only.
so that does not need a second?
It doesn't.
So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Sorry about that, my mistake.
I apologize.
That's my fault. Next thing is the superintendent report.
Yeah, so I want to make the board aware of a few things. Loop has started. I think this is, I guess, so they started right when school started back this year. The kids have all been there, been on time, which is very important. Been excited about it. They have their badges, their uniforms, and they bothered Mr. Pearson, who's overseeing that over the entire break, to make sure that they were going to have everything they needed. So that was good. So they so far so good. We'll be keeping an eye on that. They'll probably start getting out on the floor here in the next few weeks. But right now they're going through all their safety training and certifications to be prepared to do their work on the floor. Also, the Education Foundation. We have a meeting set for January the 16th here at 3 o'clock. So Ms. Janet, if she hadn't already sent out an update or information about that, she will. But that's on the 16th here at 3 o'clock, the Education Foundation. Also, I am requesting that this board take up the issue of school vouchers. I am not in favor of those. I hope there's no one on this board that's in favor of them, but we have some legislators that are in favor in this community as well. And I personally believe that school vouchers will definitely do more harm than good to public schools. And I know of several school districts in the state that have decided to write letters to their legislative body, and I'm asking this board to entertain us doing the same. Mr. Alexander and I can gladly work on some language to bring before this board to see if, and gladly take input of what you'd like to see in that if you want to do so. But I think it's something that a school district of our
I saw from the TSBA, they sent out like a general resolution that would kind of help with some language. And I read an article in either the Tennessean or the Daily News Sentinel about, I know the Knoxville School Board passed a resolution at their December board meeting. My question about the timing of that, because this legislative session just started, so like, do we need to take action on something like that tonight, or should we maybe put that on our agenda for our special called meeting that Chairman Alexander was just talking about later this month? I feel like our local legislators need to hear from us, and we need to say, I mean, I will say personally, Shannon Stewart is definitely against school vouchers. So I will sign, I'll write it myself, handwrite it if I need to. But they need to hear from us. We have one local legislator who has actually said that he would entertain the idea. Unfortunately, he has no idea how public schools are funded because his children all went to private school. So I think we need to send a statement to our local legislative delegation and let them know that Jackson-Madison County school system is not in favor of vouchers.
If I can add to that, normally we will have Mr. Johnson is scheduling a time with our legislators in order to talk with them. And this is one of the many topics of discussion that would go into play. So as soon as he make contact with I think he can speak to that, with the legislators, and we schedule a date and time here, they will hear verbally from us and written letter and resolutions or whatever is needed as well.
One of the things, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to mention is that Ben Torres, who is the legislative contact with the TSBA, has actually recommended that we, as a board, do something unilateral with our funding body, whether it's a resolution or a letter, and making sure that we all 100% support not sponsoring the vouchers. Because he's pretty sure that, along with our chamber, that a voucher bill will be filed soon. So they go back to, after this week, the House goes back on the 18th, and the Senate goes back, on the 23rd, the Senate goes back on the 28th. So I think our question is getting the letter, expedite a letter now, and also determining when is a good time to meet with the legislators before they start back on the 23rd and 28th.
So we should act on it ASAP.
TSBA sent out like a sample of what a resolution would look like. Commissioner Wall, I don't know if you're ready to speak on this on behalf, or you, Mr. Gobble, of if the county commission would entertain the idea of passing a similar resolution as our funding body.
We would certainly entertain it, and we could take it back to the commission and actually entertain that, yes.
Okay.
But I do think, you didn't ask my opinion, but I do think that this needs to be done, just from my conversations with the local legislators, that this needs to happen immediately.
Okay. I can get you the language, that TSBA gave us.
That being said, can we not
I think you heard enough to say
make a
that.
motion?
I think everybody's all right.
Let's-
Mr. Johnson, if you want to reach out to see in the next few days when we can meet with the legislatures, I think we can work to get a letter.
Pete, I think Ben was the one that sent it. I got an email from him. Okay. So y'all all probably got the same email, but.
We should expedite the letter. It's like someone said, we have at least one legislator that probably supports vouchers.
He was quoted in the newspaper over the weekend.
So my question in going forward with this, do we need to have a motion to adopt a resolution at this moment and then write the letter, or do we need to write the letter and then
Yeah,
write the letter first?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what we'll do. We'll get on that letter and then we'll get it back to the board as soon as we possibly can. That good with everybody?
Yes.
Good.
Kevin, I would stress, this meeting with them is the most important thing.
Yes, it is.
Face-to-face with these guys is the most effective way to get your message across.
Yes, it is.
So I hope we can get moving on that effort too.
And I think it would be good for all of us to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I know we met with them last year. I know what we did last year was we just reached out, or the year before last, we reached out, because we met with them during December of 2017. We just reached out to their secretaries and just asked dates that would be possible, and we just all tried to make sure we could be there. Is that fine with everybody, just to get their
Yeah.
dates?
Yes.
And just set it up, and then we'll do our best to be there. Is that
Yeah,
okay
we need
with
to be
everybody?
there and a letter.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll get the letter done.
What I do is make sure that we get with Ed and Representative Shaw and get them expedite the meeting for us, if that's okay. All right.
Yes.
Jones? Next on the,
Excuse me, I have one question. The Loop, how many students did we end up with participating in that About
It is 22,
22? Okay.
How many including our culinary students?
There are 18 in advanced manufacturing and 13 in culinary.
So right,
18.
18 in manufacturing, and we have 13 culinary students that are going to Old Country Store and Gourmet Away.
next on the agenda is number 9, questions unrelated to the board agenda items for the superintendent. Anyone have any questions for the superintendent? Take that as a no. Next on the agenda item is number 10. Please submit any February agenda items by January 31st to myself and Dr. Jones and Janet. And if you get those in as soon as you possibly can, but definitely by January 31st. Next on the agenda would be 12.1, reconsideration of the 2019-2020 calendar.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to first make an admit that I made a mistake. If I had actually knew that that's what we were saying when we were voting to remove those 2 days, I would have voted no. I go another step further in that it's been a while, 2007, since I left the system. But in the future, on any matter that pertains to teachers, I'll make a commitment that I will check with the local education association before I make my decision to make sure I have enough of the facts. With that being said, we have and I'll be brief, this is leading up to my motion. We have a problem already that the teachers, and I've been in the schools for the last 5 years, and our teachers are working hard. They need all the benefits they can and even more. We got a shortage, got a retention of being able to keep teachers with the discipline problems that they're faced with every day. And then we had just this month alone, if I'm correct, that you passed us, 10 teachers just in the month of December have left our system. It's hard to find them. And so we're going to have to do everything we can. In place of taking, we need to be given. With that in mind, and my last comment before I make my motion, I don't like the lawsuit when the clapping started. But anyway, before I make my motion, that we're going to have to do all we can to make sure that the teachers are satisfied. We got them a rail problem. Lord knows that they're confronted with all kind of problems every day. And I support the teachers, and in fact, I will show that in the budget committee meeting. I'll make a motion, and then I have already mentioned this to Dr. Jones in our meeting. I'm making a motion that in the budget we have for this year, that we make the teacher salary increase salary raise by 5%. We just got to remain supportive of our teachers. They work too hard. With that in mind,
Before you make your motion, I want to make a statement as well. I read on Facebook this week that I needed to wear red to the school board meeting if I supported teachers. And I know several teachers who are here in the audience, and a lot of y'all know that my mother was a public school teacher, and my brother is a public school teacher. I went to public school. I had lots of public school teachers. All 4 of my children are enrolled in this school district. And before I sat right here, I walked the halls of all these schools. I don't just walk the hallways of these schools now because I sit here, but I believe in this public school system, and I believe the reason that the school system is the way that it is because of teachers. But the reason that I voted the way I did last month on the calendar is because I listened to all the people who were here, who gave us all the advice. I remember, and the people who were here can tell you that I asked a lot of questions about that calendar. There were even some things on the calendar that I thought were a little silly, and I even said out loud, I think that's the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard. And if I think, and most of y'all know me well enough to know that if I think things are ridiculous, I'm going to say they're ridiculous. But y'all elected me to sit on this school board for lots of reasons, but one of the reasons why people elected me is because I'm accessible. My phone number's on the school system website, just like all these people right here. I didn't receive an email, a phone call, a Facebook message, or a knock on my door until this weekend about this calendar issue. So I asked a bunch of questions this week, and anybody that sits around this table with me will tell you, and my husband will even tell you, that I ask a lot of questions. Now, I asked a bunch of questions this week about the calendar. One of the questions I asked even over the weekend, and thank you to Dr. Jones and Dr. Miracle for responding to my email on Sunday evening at 11 o'clock when I sent it. Who was on the calendar committee? Because my concern was, were there not teachers on the calendar committee? Was there not someone who was representing JMCEA on the calendar committee? Well, there were several teachers and one representative from JMCEA. And so my question is, and the reason I voted, had all these teachers called me, sent me emails, Facebooked me, and said, don't vote to add these days for us, I probably would have thought about it. I probably would have asked a whole bunch of questions before I voted. Again, y'all know me well enough to know I'm going to ask questions all day long. We could sit here till 10 o'clock. I could think of all the questions I have for tonight. But I need to eat supper. So my question is why didn't y'all wear red last month when we voted on the calendar? You had teachers had representation on the calendar. Miss Babb, I didn't mean to call you out, but our meetings are open to the public. Our agendas are published to the public. Y'all knew we were voting on the calendar. Everybody knew we were voting on the calendar. Well, then you need to speak to your teacher representatives who are on that committee and your JMCEA representative who sat on that committee meeting. I talked to a parent yesterday who even told me about a conversation in the committee meeting where they said when they decided to do the calendar the way that they did, that they knew that teachers were going to be upset about it because the teachers said, hey, y'all, this really kind of sucks, and it's going to be hard to tell teachers this. So you might need to vote some new people on that representation for yourselves. But I'm here to represent people, and so, but my people didn't call me or Facebook me or I had people knock on my door this weekend and talk to me about this issue. So we're here to represent y'all, but we don't know, like Morris said, he didn't know it was an issue. Well, guess what? None of the rest of us knew it either.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
I need to talk also. I need to say something. I'm a retired educator. I got the same emails that you got. I'm hoping someone that responded to me said, you're the only person who responded back to our emails. I don't know what motion Morris is going to make right now, but I do feel that before you make your motion, we need to discuss what is happening, because I am a champion of teachers. Because I feel that teachers need to be treated as professionals. So many times, teachers aren't consulted. And yes, I did vote for the calendar too, because I did not realize what was going on. But each time that something is voted on, oftentimes board members are not aware of the impact that is taking place with you guys. But then there's another impact on the budget. So we need to be aware. We can't, each time something happens, go back and change things, because then there's a ripple effect on the budget. And it's always a hit, oftentimes, on us. When I say us, I'm saying the teachers, because I feel that I'm still a teacher, even though I'm retired. So I understand, I really do understand how teachers feel. And I just talked about it yesterday to the board. I said, teachers got to feel, I mean, we're professionals, and we can't just keep giving, because we do give. So, again, I do understand. But, you know, we have to, when something is done, sometime it's done, and then we have to wait, and it has to be an effect, because I don't want you to feel like you're not appreciated. That's the worst feeling in the world. It seemed like it's always the hit on you, and I know how it feels. So sometimes we have to discuss things before. So I don't know what your motion is, Morris, so we'll just have to see.
Okay, yeah.
We need a motion and a second before we have discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit too.
So Morris, you gonna make a motion?
I make a motion that we discuss the matter.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Basically, this is what I wanted to say. We had been discussing the issues relatable to the teachers, you know.
If that's your motion, we still need a second.
Okay,
we
I'm
have to
sorry.
have a second, y'all.
Okay, second, okay. We had discussed, you know.
So is everybody in favor of discussing it?
Yes.
Say aye.
Aye. Okay, now, okay. We had discussed concerns of what, you know, the teachers in the district were facing. And I had proposed a new policy, which was called the Teachers Retention Committee Policy. And Dr. Jones, he and his staff, along with teachers, had maintained ownership of this particular policy. We had brought this policy, well, we had made discussion about this policy in November at the policy committee. And this policy was going to serve as a model policy for 1 year, at which time it would give Dr. Jones and the teachers, whoever he had staff on this particular committee, to look at ways to see what we could do in order to keep our teachers. You know, what would it take, you know, in order to have good harmony in this particular district? You know, what are your needs? What are your issues? What are your concerns? And doing this particular policy, it would have addressed all of this. So I'm going to refer to Dr. Jones so he can just speak a little bit more to this particular policy to see in which ways that he is handling it along with the district.
How can we address what's going on?
Yeah, that includes it in the Teachers Retention Committee policy. Yes.
So yes, we have a teacher retention committee, and we definitely can make teachers aware of those who are on committee. We also have JMCEA representation on that committee, and that committee is designed to look at particular issues that are facing the district, not only our district, but nationwide with teacher retention issues. And it's designed to allow teachers to have input on what they feel will help keep teachers in place and also attract teachers. So I would definitely send those names out so you can share your thoughts and concerns with those on that committee. But in terms of the calendar and support for the teachers, you know, I don't want to put it in the category that because we are reallocating days that means we don't support teachers. When I took this position, I'm put in a leadership role to make decisions that are not popular decisions all the time, but that does not mean you don't value your teachers. We can't get anything done without our teachers. And I have to make very difficult decisions at times. And I hope I have shown in the year and a half that I've been here that I do value people. I consider myself to be accessible. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to always agree with what I'm doing, and I can respect that. But those days, now, this is the first I've heard of in the 90s, the agreement about the 30 minutes, and I can understand that. But one of the issues we're having, this is an overarching issue, that agreements that were made in the 90s, they can't last forever. And we're having an issue right now in our district of moving past some things that have always been in place, and some tough decisions that had to be made. And that's the only way this district's going to dig out of the hole. And in the overall scheme of things, these 2 days, this is not the battle that we're talking about. But also this board had made a decision, and this is the second time now that I know of that we've made decisions, and now we're saying I really didn't know what I was voting on. And that's a problem.
For the record, I did not say that.
Well, I understand that, but we have to take time, and maybe it's on me. I need to probably tell you a little bit more, and not take for granted that everybody is fully aware of what they're voting on. So I will take full responsibility for that. I will give you more information so that I can ensure that you know what you're voting on. But that decision was not made in any way to devalue our educators. And I want to make sure that that's communicated. I find if we don't agree with it, and fine if we don't like it, but I really hope that our teachers understand that it's not it was not made out of saying we could care less about our teachers, and that's my 2 cents on it.
Dr. Jones, in retrospect, have you heard anything that would change your mind on this calendar or change your recommendation on this calendar?
No, I don't change my recommendation.
Okay.
I value everything the teachers have said. You know, the flip side of what I often hear, and being a principal, this has been age old, that I don't have time to work in my classroom. And you often hear teachers and having to come in on Saturdays or having to stay long hours afterwards. So if we do keep this in place, I ensure that those 2 days will not be in-service days. You will be finishing out the school year or getting prepared for the school year if this board so chooses to keep those calendar days.
But, excuse me, but to be clear, your recommendation is we keep this calendar like it is. Okay.
Ready for my motion?
I got a minute, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. I too asked Dr. Jones for the names of the committee because some of the teachers that contacted me asked if there was teachers on the committee, which I didn't know. I said I thought it was, so I got that clarification. So there was actually teachers on the committee. There was assistant principal on the committee, and there was a principal on the committee. So I think what our issue is the communication, and really the communication has been, I think, it's been poor in a way that when the committee makes decisions, how it gets out to the people that's involved, in my opinion. And I of course, I support students first and teachers 110%. The other thing is I want to thank Dr. Jones for creating a culture where teachers are not afraid to email us, or email him, call us or call him. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. You couldn't get teachers. I've been involved with education here for 40 years, and teachers were actually scared, afraid to make comments openly about their job. So I appreciate that, Dr. Jones. That's all I got to say.
Before we move on any further, first of all, I apologize for not answering any emails. I got them over the weekend, and I just hadn't got to it yet this week. I feel like I have supported teachers since I've been on this board, and I've went to battle, and you can ask Dr. Jones. We've had some conversations about teachers, and I care about teachers, and my son's teacher has been here the last 2 weeks, or last 2 meetings, and I love teachers. We can't, y'all are what makes our education system work. And I appreciate y'all very much, but also appreciate our superintendent. And that being said, before we make a motion tonight to deal with this, as I said to a teacher before we started tonight, I just wanted to hear what the teachers had to say. I don't really want to make a decision about this tonight. If that's what is going to come down, I want to think about this for a while before it's just thrown on me that I've got to, I've got to make this decision if that's what is coming down the pike. I think we'd do ourselves justice if we would just talk to some more teachers, get some more input before we make a motion tonight to go any further. Yes, you may.
First thing I want to say is that in reference to, I did not know what I was voting for. I did not know the impact of it. I served as administrator from 1985 to 2007, and I'm talking to myself. I should have known better than to went along with that. What the teachers are about to see now, this is too important to postpone. It's either, and I'm speaking for myself and not for the board, we need to show you that we support you now, not tomorrow. And I don't see postponing and talking with teachers and talking with anybody else. You want your 2 days back. Shouldn't have left. And I want to make this motion because I think we've had enough discussion. We know how to do the right thing. It's time now to see if we're going to do the right thing tonight. With that being said, I make a motion that we amend the 2019-2020 calendar to reinstate those 2 days whereby all of the teachers will receive the 4 days of paid leave annually as last year. That's my motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes. I knew up front that there was representation from JMCEA. I had to get her let in the door. I knew that y'all should have received word of what was happening with that calendar. You should have. I voted with clear conscience that you knew what was going on. I voted with clear conscience that you knew. I knew that she knew. I knew that there were other educators on that committee. Y'all should have known. There's a process. Part of that process is them letting you know what's going on. Part of that process is we took a vote on a calendar that was presented to us.
I also want to, first of all, I live with an educator, so I got to hear about it this weekend.
Me too.
My wife's probably watching. I love you, baby. Go to bed. I responded to all but one email, and that's because I received it at 3:21 and didn't have a chance to, so I apologize to that person. But I did as well, voting clear conscience. And one thing I do want to address is something that seems to be thrown around without a lot of evidence, and that's low teacher morale. And I actually asked, and those people can attest to this, when I got those emails that said teacher morale is at an all-time low, I asked, okay, I'm not going to dispute that, but what is your evidence of that? And all three people that I responded to with that exact said, well, actually, teacher morale is at an all-time high with the hope and expectation of the future of our system. We're upset with this decision. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting some shaking heads out there, and that's fine. But my issue is, if you're going to make statements to teacher morale is at an all-time low, and Mr. Merriweather, you've made that statement many times.
Make it again.
I would like it to be evidence-based. I would like it to be with not one or two opinions. I'd like it to be a system-wide opinion, because I can tell you right now, this community, Madison County, county commission, city council, local representation, hope is at an all-time high for this system. We are right there to making some change. We've already seen academic improvement, and that can't be denied. Now, once again, like Mr. Jones likes to say, Dr. Jones likes to say, when you're trying to lose 100 pounds, if you lose 10 pounds, that's still not getting anywhere. But it shows some progress. It shows some proof of concept. If I need to lose 50 pounds and I lose 10 the first week, what I'm doing is working. I hadn't lost 50 pounds yet, right? But I got some proof of concept. So we have proof of concept with that man right there and what he's asked us to do. So I ask everybody to get behind him, and I understand decisions aren't going to be favorable. Like I said, I sleep in the bed with one that wasn't in favor of this decision. And I don't know if anybody else in here can say that, but and I actually
Wayne can.
Yeah, I didn't sleep in the bed the whole night. That's all I'll say. But anyway, my point is, I support that man, and on the recommendation of this vetted decision, I'm gonna keep the calendar as it is.
Okay, I support Dr. Jones as well, but not in this decision. When I made the statement that morale is at an all-time low, I don't know if too many people, Reverend Baxter and I spent 3 years in and out of every school except the schools that would not let us in. There were some, I guess they had something to hide, would not let us in. It was 2 of them. When I make the statement that morale is low, we're talking about the inner city schools. Now, when you go to the schools where that's not that problem, that's why he's saying that. But when you want to be fair, you talk about what the teachers have to put up with in the schools where all of those discipline problems are. Now, we got to quit playing games. I'm going to be honest with you and straight with you every day that I see you on the board. But it's time out for this stuff saying what's not, and we know that it is.
Will there be any,
Chairman, sorry.
will there be any budgetary impact with any changes?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Call for the question.
Well, I was about to.
There a second?
Beat me to the punch.
Second.
All in favor for calling on the question and voting on the,
Mr. Chairman, I
main
call for
motion?
a roll call vote.
We'll roll call. All those, roll call for, calling for the question. Call out. We got to vote for call for the question. It takes two-thirds vote to end discussion and go and vote on the main motion. And he wants a roll call on the, you want a roll call on the,
Just on the vote, not on the amendment.
we'll still do, because it takes two-thirds. We just want to do a roll call on the call for the question.
Mr. Arnold?
No.
Ms. Doris?
No.
We voting on,
The no is to end discussion.
Yes.
You don't want to end discussion? No.
I've got one more thing to say.
Okay, so no is, a yes vote is to end discussion. A no vote is to continue with discussion.
no.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Okay, I just have one more thing to say. Over half of the people that contacted me either through email or text, their statement was, we should be using our existing PD days to be able to set up our classroom. Well, that's not what professional development days are for. That kind of confuses me. We're paying you to come in and set up your classroom instead of you coming in on your own time under this. But you want to take the professional development days where you should be working on professional development to set up your classrooms. That just confused me, and that's over half of the people that I talked to that were in support of it. That's what they said. And not everybody was in support of reinstating the days, by the way.
Wayne, on that point, I got an email from a teacher that asked me what those days are for. Contacted Dr. Jones. He responded back with, yes, they will be working in the classrooms and preparing to start the year and close out the semester. And my response was, awesome news, thank you.
On these 2 days, my question, is it for professional development or is it just to set up classrooms? Or is it?
It's to work in classroom, prepare for the school year, and/or close out the school year. So that could be a myriad of things.
Okay.
Like preparing a report card?
Any other discussion? Are we ready to vote? Roll call vote.
Mr. Arnold?
This is to
Will you read your motion?
Read your motion, please.
Motion is, so a motion to amend the 2019-2020 calendar to reinstate the 2 days whereby all teachers receive the 4 days of paid leave annually as last year.
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Next on the agenda is committee reports and any necessary action. 13.1 is Long Range Planning Committee.
You're up. Morris, you're up.
Morris.
Morris,
You
you're
need
up.
to give your
Long Range
Planning Committee report.
We met last Tuesday, and there was a total of 4 questions that were given to Dr. Jones to respond from the Long Range Planning Committee. That was given and passed out at least in November. And in December, I requested again. And then 2 weeks before Christmas, I met with Dr. Jones to ask him to put it in writing so we could have something to discuss on. Wednesday of last week, talked to Dr. Jones and asked when could I get those questions so I could simulate it to my committee and we could look at it and see if we had follow-up questions. I received a text at 11:05 the day before the meeting, that's PM, stating that he would give it to me on the day of the hearing. And I needed it for that day, so by the time I got to the meeting and passed it to Mr. Johnson and Ms. Black, who was a part of the committee, we did not have ample time to go through the questionnaire. But we did take a look at the 2 of the questions on there. One was the bail time. And the question was, so for the benefit of the audience, I'll read it and be brief with it. Requested our superintendent to recommend at least 2 options concerning a late bail for the middle school and high school students to our committee. with the goals of implementing in the next school year. Dr. Jones gave option 1, leapfrog current starting time. In this scenario, it would be 6 through 12 graders leap ahead of elementary with a start time of 8:30 to 8:45 a.m. and ending time of 3:30 to 3:45. Elementary school would start at 7:50 or 8 a.m. and end their day at 2:50 or 3 o'clock. He stated that I do not recommend this option without 4-block athletic, which would have a budgetary impact. However, without with the block athletic, our students' athletics would not start practicing until 4 p.m. This option would also require more an after-school care at every elementary school, which would come at a cost to the family. Option number 2 is elementary school would start at 8:45. High school would start at 8 a.m. K through 8 would start at the same time as elementary. This would require more school aftercare. This option would have less budgetary impact. We could possibly pilot this option at various schools before implementing it. I came up and would like to submit option number 3. Option number 3, and we're going to discuss all 3 of the options. I'm just reading it so you'll know what we're discussing at the meeting. Option 3 is that we leave elementary students timed as it is now. Middle school and high school students will begin at 8:45. Due to the length of this meeting, I won't go and give you all my reasons. I'll be glad to give them to you after the meeting, though I just don't want to delay them because we're going to discuss it on Tuesday. But my option is just to leave elementary as is. Middle school and high school will go start at 8:45. We'll discuss that on this coming Tuesday and deliberate that and listen to what Dr. Jones has to say and talk back and forth until we can reach a consensus where we can make a motion for the entire board. The final thing that we talked about on that particular day, that is that the committee requested that Dr. Jones to immediately proceed to send letters to property owners of 50 acres or more and advertise these local media for landowners and developers to donate all or part of the land area of 50 to 100 acres for schools in each of the following areas. Within 1 mile of the 45 bypass of Orwell Road, south of the Forkadale River, within 2 miles of I-40, west of Hollywood, exit 79, and east of Lower Brownsville Road. Dr. Jones replied that if this is what the board would like to pursue, I will follow that. So we're going to discuss that because the motion was made that we will discuss both of them on this coming Tuesday at 3:30. That concludes my report.
You scheduled it for Thursday.
17th.
Ma'am?
It's Thursday.
Thursday the 17th. Yes, ma'am. 17th at 3:30.
Budget Committee, Mr. Johnson.
We did not meet. We'll meet before our February meeting.
Wayne, Technology Committee.
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled for, I believe, the 23rd.
Yeah, that's on there. January 23rd at 3:30. Yeah.
Correct.
Discussion items, the voucher, we've already discussed it, is the next on the agenda, 14.1. So I don't think there's any other need to do that. Agenda item 15, legislative contact report made during the month of January. Need to submit that to Janeth. Plus, we're going to set up, James is going to get rolling on setting up us to meet with our legislators. Item 16 on the agenda is information items for the board. Combined work session and board meeting for February 11th, 2019 at 5:30. The annual calendar is on e-meeting for you to look at. 2018-19 TSBA Board Academies are on the e-meeting for you to also look at. TSBA District Policy Manual Maintenance Agreement. We'll make our final payment for that 3-year contract in February. Just wanted to make each of you aware of that. And that being said, the next on the, if anybody Does anybody have any questions about any of those? Next on the list is item 18, adjournment. Do I have a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.